I've just read about Nimco Ali here, and she seems to be a very interesting lady and done some very interesting things, and seems to me she'd be quite a useful advisor in that way. So maybe we shouldn't be too worried about it. If they're not going through the normal processes to hire somebody as an advisor, then that is wrong, and they need to sort that out. But why on earth people are getting so hot under the collar about this? The fact that Boris's other half is maybe having some influence on him, I don't know, because I don't know anybody who isn't influenced by their other half.
Yeah, again, James, this isn't about having some influence. This is, again, about an extraordinary and consistent amount of reports that suggest that there is a direct role in government. And those, if investigated and that's found not to be the case, well, fine. But I think the consistency and the coherence of those reports are now at a point that they absolutely do need to be investigated. And I don't think reading in a couple of minutes the bio of Nimco Ali is admissible as a reason why she should be hired as a Home Office.
Well, tell me a good reason why she shouldn't. What is it about her you don't like?
No, again, just like Dominic Cummings, I don't know Nimco Ali. I've never met her. I think she said some very curious things about men and Brexiteers in the past that were deeply offensive. The question is, what was the process for hiring her? You have all sorts of other government positions. Loads of people work for the government in this country, or work for the civil service, or work for the NHS or whatever. And there is a process for hiring those people. And now that process is so highly scrutinised. Have they hired enough LGBT people? Have they hired enough BAME people? It's a very scrutinised process for other things that are much.
Well, I presume they only hire the right sort of percentage.
Well, they hired our friend, didn't they, Ross Kempsell, didn't they, who was friends with Carrie? Do you know anything about that, Ben?
Don't bother to ask him that.
It's interesting because he's lost touch with him ever since his Twitter thing has disappeared.
He doesn't talk to us anymore, does he?
No, he doesn't talk to us. So do you know anything? How is Ross doing? He plays tennis apparently with Boris and stuff.
There have been, indeed, as you say, very consistent reports of a lot of friends of Miss Symonds finding their way into government posts that, again, not only are paid for by we the taxpayers, but are also making decisions that affect our lives. And
we have to pay a lot of fairly dubious people, don't we?
We do, but I don't think that's a defense. I mean, when you said earlier, maybe there should be some other things that are being investigated, absolutely, the two aren't mutually exclusive. I think the way the government has handled some aspects of coronavirus needs to be investigated, absolutely, yes. And there was a judicial review the other day, which is the sort of thing we're calling for, that found that the government has acted inappropriately in the way that they had dealt with EPE contracts. And that's what we're talking about.
But she's not accountable. But if something happens and she does it, then Boris will be accountable for taking her advice she's not in an official position.
There's a more important question here to ask Ben. Listen, when Boris asks me, as he is going to, I'm sure, and Ash for that moment, to be special advisors on the media, because he's a great friend of ours. He fills in for me every now and then when I'm. Well, he hasn't had the time, has he, since he was the Prime Minister? No. But he used to. Would that be something people would complain about if I suddenly become a very powerful advisor to the Prime Minister?
Oh, yeah, they could.
Well, James, if the process was handled correctly, and I think, despite the Barney we've just had, I think you are a fantastically experienced media performer, and the government would do well to consult you on certain issues. But
we've not had a Barney, Ben. We've had a.
You said I was losing my temper or something, which I wasn't. But nonetheless, there has to be a process, doesn't there? If the government does say, well, we brought James Well in because James and Ash
featuring Ash,
we brought them both in because they've got a great track record, and we looked at a number of other people. We decided they would be best. And then if you are appointed as a government special advisor, and I hope you are, James, you will then be accountable to the public and to a framework of laws. So if you then go on and do something outrageous in your position,
like going for an eye test up to 200 miles away.
Quite. If you go for an eye test 200 miles away and you've broken the law in doing so, and there's an investigation and they find that you've behaved inappropriately, then you can be censured for that and you can be fired for that. And that's the way it should be. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be government advisors. I'm saying it's very important that Britain is governed by laws and its constitution.
Just purely because I'm running out of time, Ben, do we know that this lady, forgotten her name now, thank you, Nimco Ali, has she been, do we know, properly brought in or not? Or is it just supposition at the moment that we don't know and we haven't been able to find out?
Well, that's the point of investigation. As I say, I'm not saying that I should be in charge of the investigation. I don't think I should be involved in the investigation.
No, I don't either.
An independent body should oversee the investigation and should review the information. And what we're saying is, the information that is out there suggests a consistent and credible case that there is something inappropriate going on. If that investigation then finds that there's been nothing inappropriate going on, then fantastic.
Well, I think Boris should do that straight away. Hopefully he can then stop all the tittle-tattle and people being worried about him taking much advice from his other half. Ben, good to talk to you. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much. Ben Harris, chairman of the Bow Group.